Hey everyone. All right, so I'm going to do a step-by-step demonstration of how to complete the outline for this week and how to do the research for it. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so here's our page. We're on to lessons. Let's see. Then we go down to week 4. Okay. And then go down to the essay 1 outline. And then I would download this and go ahead and write yours on it. So I would just open it up. Oh, Lordy. It just kicked me out. All right, so have this up now. Go ahead and type in your last name. I'm gonna do my fake name, Smith, Elliot Smith. And if you, like I said, if you just use this document, it's already all there for you. Okay. Due date is this Sunday, so that is the 9th. I mean, honestly, I'm never really gonna mark anything wrong. I don't really check the date. I just see that you have a date, so whatever. Title, I would say you just call this essay 1 outline. Okay. All right. So start out by filling out short stories that you read and that you're going to write about. This requires that you've already read them. Okay. And that you've already kind of decided what you want to write about. So I am saying I'm using 3 different stories that you haven't read, just because I don't want to, I don't want to feed you all the answers. So I'm using different stories. Okay. So I'm using Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. I'm doing The Adulterous Woman by Albert Camus. Oops, not Albury, Albert Camus. And I'm doing The Sea Change by Ernest Hemingway. Okay. All right. So for the Story of an Hour, I'm not doing a quote or a small idea. I'm doing a symbol. The symbol here is the open window in her room. Okay. For the Adulterous Woman, I've already decided that my theme is a theme of women reclaiming their identities. Well, I guess I should put this in full sentence. Okay. Something like the importance of women reclaiming their identities after giving them up on marriage. If you want to be more precise. Okay. And then I've decided that my philosophy that I'm going to be applying to the sea change is, if you've been paying attention to any of my other lectures, it should not be a surprise, existentialism. Here we go. Okay. So those are you have to go ahead and decide what you're going to write about for each of your short stories before you do any of the research. Okay. And now I can go ahead and write my thesis statement because I have this information is what you have to have for your thesis statement. All right, you want to put all this essentially in one sentence that establishes what your whole thing is going to be about, your whole essay is going to be about. So here we have a generalized statement, and then the thematic symbol from the short story 1, the main idea of short story 2, and the philosophy of short story 3. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that ambulance or fire truck or whatever. So this comes out to, hold on, I'm just going to pause. Okay. So here's the example of my thesis statement. It's long, which is fine because it's not a run-on as long as you have the proper punctuation where it needs to be. Here, my generalized statement, I'm going to highlight. Look, I'm going to highlight this yellow, okay? And then each of these are going to be their own color. You don't need to highlight this in yours. I'm just highlighting so you can kind of see the 4 parts of your thesis statement. Okay. So the thematic symbol from story 1, that's going to be that color. The main idea discussing story 2, that's going to be that color. And then connect to the philosophy. That's going to be, we're going to change that to purple because gray is kind of bleak. And some might say existentialism is bleak, but I like color. So here we have, okay, my generalized statement. Reading stories help us understand people better. Okay, that's a very generalized statement. Boom. The world is filled with people who need help. Generalized statement, right? Thematic symbol from story 1. So reading stories helps us understand people better, such as how personal autonomy is the purest form of pleasure, as symbolized by the open window in the story of an hour. Okay. Now for this little chunk, I stated what the symbolic symbol was, the open window. And so you do need to go and figure that one out. Like, what does it represent? Okay. Open window represents personal freedoms. Okay. So reading stories helps us understand people better, such as how personal autonomy is the purest form of pleasure, as symbolized by the open window in the story of an hour. I mentioned what it means, what the symbol is, and the short story's title. And then I just put a comma here. How women like Janine and the adulterous woman must reclaim their identities after giving them up for the men they marry. Okay. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not discussing anything else about the adulterous woman other than Janine and the overall theme. Okay. And how, so then I have this, and this I'll highlight gray. This is our conjunction. How existentialism can help people like Phil overcome social pressures in the sea change. Okay. Now I know I didn't just say things like, oh, there's existentialism in the sea change. There's an open window in the story of an hour. In my thesis, I provided some clarity. Okay. I provided what the symbol represented. All right. So this, the things that are in italics, which you don't have to make yours italics. I'm just doing it to show it to you. This is new. I did not write that in my outline. Okay. I added that part into my thesis. How women like Janine. Okay. I didn't mention the character Janine in my part up here. okay? I just said what the theme was. So I added that when writing my thesis. And then how existentialism can help Phil, like people like Phil overcome social pressures. That is added as well. So you're not just literally taking these things and just sewing them together. You are adding in some information and developing a very concise thesis statement. Okay. But when you create each of these parts of your thesis, you are creating the main idea, the claim for each of your body paragraphs. These are your main ideas for your body paragraphs, okay? Which then you can go ahead and, what I would do, I would just go ahead and copy and paste these little segments and put them here at the beginning of each of your body paragraphs. And like they go in order. The way that they appear in your thesis statement is how they should appear in the essay. The thesis statement tells your reader, me, what direction you're going in. It tells us how your essay is already organized. I should be able to know so much about your essay just by reading your thesis statement, which is why those things are so important. Okay. So symbol, small idea. All right. So now I have my 3 main ideas for each of my stories. Okay. So symbol, here we have the open window. All right. So I need to find a quote or something from the story that deals with that I want to use. Okay. So, if I pull it up, story of an hour text. Okay. I go and I might just do a general find for window. So you already have window right here. Okay. And then I found, there are patches of blue sky showing here and there through the clouds that had met and piled one above the other in the west, facing her window. Okay. And this is what I'm saying is that her open window leads her to freedom. It leads her to blue skies. The story is about a woman who finds out her husband died in a train crash. Okay. And so you would think that in the story about what a wife losing her husband, you would think that like it'll be a sad setting, but instead though, while that's sad, she sees nothing but beautiful nature and the world outside of her house. And so that's symbolizing that there is she's seeing that she has a lot of freedom now that her husband's dead, because this was written in a time period where women didn't have a lot of freedoms. Okay, so here I have this quote. All right. I don't want the quote highlighted. When you paste, if you're using Microsoft, you actually have paste options that you can look at and see that, and it gives you different options of how it's going to look when you paste it, and then you can pick the one that you want. So this one fits well. All right, so that's my quote from the story. Now I need a quote from an outside source. Okay, so I'm going to go to. I don't know how y'all get to the library, online library, but for me, I have to go out of the class and go to the main page, and then I click on library and Galileo. Okay, all right, so I'm here. There's a couple of different routes that you can take. You can go to libguides and databases, okay, and you can go down here and select English 1102. Okay. And then when you're here, you go to Galileo and more. Okay. And you can do Bloom's literature or the literary reference source. Either way, either one that you might, whichever one you might want to do. I'm going to go here to literary reference sources. Okay. Here I'm going to type in story of an hour. Page open analysis. Full text. Yep. Okay. Got it. And so I can start going through these and looking at what they're about. This right here is a book, a biography. It's provided. Okay. Analysis of her works. Okay. Short stories, the story of an hour. Okay. I can access now PDF. All right, there's 7 pages here. Go through and scroll down the story of an hour. I can read this and see if there's anything in it that I like. It's not very long. So I read it. I didn't really like that. I'm like, that doesn't really tell me much about it. Okay. So then I go back. And then I look at It's a Man's World, re-examination of the female perspective. I was like, oh, okay, that looks good. And so being that I've already read this, okay, access now PDF. I go to the PDF and I go through it. It's 16 pages. I gotta do some reading. But I don't gotta read about Desiree's baby because I'm not writing about Desiree's baby. So I scroll through some more until I get to the story of an hour. The burden of marriage. Okay, yes. Okay, yes. And I start reading this. And then I come across a passage about let's see, where is it? I mean, I've already read it, so I know what I'm looking for here. Instead oh yeah, okay. So I came across this quote right here. Instead of grieving for her husband, she retreats upstairs and slowly but surely starts developing thoughts of liberation. Initially, she refuses to allow herself this freedom of thought, but the same message reaches her through the scenery outside the window's frame. From the outside, the nature outside charges Louise with fresh energy, but more importantly, she also starts experiencing hope. Okay, so this is the quote that I like. I copy it, I highlight it, I copy it, I go back to my outline. Okay, and I paste it. That looks weird, so I fix it. Just because somebody pastes it weird doesn't mean that you just keep it there and be like, oh, well, that's the way it did it. Clean it up. Clean it up, people. All right. And then, so this is the quote that I'm probably not going to use this whole quote in my paper, but this is a good quote. On your outline, you can have a long quote. In your paper, I don't want you to have long quotes. I would need to cut this quote up if I was going to use this in my actual paper. But for now, that's all right, though. All right, now here's one of the great benefits of using Galileo. Okay, so I used this paper. All right, let me go back. And I'm here, and now I need to cite it. Okay, so see here at the top it says cite. Right, And then you select your style. MLA 9th edition. Boom, it's right there. So then I can just copy it. Close. Go back to my outline. I would go to the next line. And then paste. Wait, no, I don't like the highlighted. Paste options. Don't paste it with the with the highlights. Okay. So there is that. Now, of course, it's not right. It doesn't look correct. So I need to, I say you just go ahead and indent it now. So that way it's ready for when you need to copy and paste it and put it in your works cited page. Since we want to have a hanging indent, if I try to indent this second line, the whole thing gets pushed forward. So you got to go back to the end of the previous line. End of the previous line and hit the tab button on your keyboard, and then it pushes it. Go to the end of this line, hit tab several times, and it pushes it. Then go to the end of this line and hit tab, and it pushes it. This is how you create the hanging indent. The first line is not indented. It's the subsequent lines that are indented. Okay. And now you're ready to go to find your next source. So I have my quote. I'm not going to use this whole quote. This quote is long, but I'm going to be able to cut it apart and fit it in. So now I'm going to go to my next one, the adulterous woman. All right. Let's see. So then I need to go to my adulterous woman text, and I'm going to find a quote about identity, giving up the identity for the man that she married. Okay. So my theme, which is already right here, right? I've already kind of written it. Women like Janine must reclaim their identities after giving them up for the men they marry. So I go to the adulterous woman. I mean, I don't really need to show it to you. I have it. But fine. Pulling it up. All right, so it's here. I already kind of know what I want to find. Okay. It's this part. What's going on here, people? Where she's breathing deep. Okay. Breathing deeply, she forgot the cold, the dead weight of others, the craziness of stuffiness of life, the long anguish of living and dying. After so many years of mad, aimless fleeing from fear, she had come to a stop at last. At the same time, she seemed to recover her roots, and the sap again rose in her body. All right, this whole part is pretty symbolic of her just kind of reclaiming herself. She had given up on life pretty much when she got married. Again, this was written in the 1920s. Okay, it's different today, maybe. And so this is the quote that I'm going to use. Okay, about her life coming back to her. Okay. So now I need to find quotes from a secondary source. All right. Now, for the sake of time, I know that like this story is so random, and the story is not part of Albert Camus' well-known canon. Okay, that I'm not going to be able to find much about the adulterous woman. All right, let's just say I tried using Galileo. It's not working. Okay, I'm not. I mean, yeah, okay, there are sources about him, but let's just say I can't find a quote that really gets to what I want to say. Okay, but if you recall the power, our discussion on different types of research, I can find research that's about the actual story, or I can find research that's not about the actual story, but it's about a topic discussed in the story, and then I can apply it to it. So I know that like this topic is really about marriage. Okay, it's about marriage in general, and so I could do some research on marriage and women and how women feel about marriage. Okay, and you know, not all women, of course, but some women. And I can consider the themes of the story and what I want to say about Janine and how Janine is ultimately unhappy in her place in her marriage. And if you recall the PowerPoints that I posted, I went over what are sources you can use outside of Galileo, which was you can't. And one of those is psychology today. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and tell you that let's see, where is this? I found an article called here it is. So you could do Psychology Today. Psychology Today. Women. Psychology Today. Women sacrifice their sense of being for their marriages. All right. So I would type in Psychology Today and then type in the theme that I'm trying to go for. How women sacrifice their sense of being for their marriages. All right. So then I get some of these. Marriage does require some sacrifice. Is marriage a bad deal for women? Why relationship sacrifices aren't always worth making? And so from this one, I can just go through these and read them and peruse through them and see if I come across a quote that I can apply to my interpretation of the short story. This source is not on the short story that I read, but it's on the topic. Okay, and if you recall, I talked about how there was topical and supportive research. Supportive research is research that supports your actual interpretation directly. And then there's topical research, which is just sort of on the topic of your analysis. So in this one, I found this quote. What is it? Oh, whoops. All right. The expectation that wives orient themselves around their husband's emotional needs and preferences, often offer unconditional support, but not get that same care in return, is no longer working for many women. And they've come to believe that marriage is holding them back from living the life they want to live. All right. This quote, even though this quote was written in 2022, directly relates to what the character Janine in this short story is feeling. Okay. And so, yeah, this quote comes out 100 years after this short story was written, but it's still very applicable to exactly what Janine is going through if you read the story. Okay. So I'm going to use at least part of this quote. Okay. All right. Citation. So I need to go back. So this is Psychology Today, and it does not provide me with a citation. All right. So what I need to do then is I can use EasyBib. Hey. So you can go to, everybody has a different website that they use for citations. I just use easybib.com. Go here, create your sources. I'm using a website. I go to the Psychology Today article. I copy the URL. I place it here. Hit search. That's it. Hit cite. Now, here's the only issue, though, is that you got to enter in some information yourself. Hit continue. Okay, so you got to look at the boxes. Are they filled out? Title, is marriage a bad deal for women? Well, that is the article title. All right. I would capitalize these because that's the way it should be written. Bad. Oops, what happened there? There you go. Deal for women. Okay, it does not list the author. So I need to, Tanya Lester. Okay, Tanya. All these articles have authors, so you just need to look for it and enter it in. This is just a program, an AI program that scans, and for whatever reason, it does not ever pick up the author's name. Let's see. Psychology Today. Okay, yes. Electronically published. It does not post the published date, which you need. You do need the published date, but it says it right here. So it's April 27th, 2022. You will lose points if you don't enter in this information. Okay. And then complete citation. View the sponsored message. And then you'll be able to copy and paste it, which I already have it here from when I did this. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste this here. All right. So then we have existentialism. All right. I need to get a quote. I need to get some information about existentialism. So I think if you just go to back to Galileo, you can go to LibGuides. So English1102. You're here. Galileo and more. And you can go to Bloom's literature. Okay, I'm an educator. And then here, is this Bloom's? All right, let's see. Type in existentialism or your philosophy, full text, search. And then all this stuff comes up. Okay. Existentialism, existential analysis, SART studies, okay, chaos theory and existentialism. All this stuff comes up. So which one did I use specifically? History of fucking. All right. So you can click on one and see if it gives you some information about it. But you need to make sure that whatever information you find is applicable. Like, don't find historical information that isn't really applicable to what you want to say about your story. Hold on. I think I'll try this again. Bloom's literature. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. I was looking for something. There was different, or maybe it was LibGuides. Let's see. Library catalog, guide home. There was something that was a little bit more faster.
Morning.
Good morning. But that's all right. Bloom's literature is fine. So you will look at the full text. And find something that's useful. Themes, moral individualism, subjectivity. Read through, quotes like this, let's see here. Most philosophers since Plato have held the highest ethical good is the same for everyone. Things that are specifically about specific writers would not be a good quote. Okay. You want things, quotes like Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and other existentialist writers have been deliberately unsystematic exposition of their philosophy. Like that's not a good quote that will help explain what existentialism is. You want things that are more generalized. Let's see, like existentialists have held that human beings do not have a fixed nature or essence as other animals and plants do. Each human being makes choices that creates his or her own nature. If you feel like that applies to your story, then that would be a good quote. Choice is therefore essential to human existence and is inescapable. Even the refusal to choose is a choice. Freedom of choice entails commitment and responsibility. Because individuals are free to choose their own paths, existentialists have argued they must accept the risk and responsibility of following their commitment wherever it leads. All right, so let's say I'm like, yes, this is great. This is what I want to use. I'd copy it. I would go to my outline, wherever it is. I guess I put it over here. And I would paste it. Oh, there it is. All right. So then I'm writing existentialism. Okay, I have my quote. And then the great thing about using Galileo is the citation, is that I can go here and go to cite, select MLA. There it is. And I copy it. No, I don't want those highlights. Do not paste it with highlights. And if it doesn't do it correctly, fine. Then you need to just fix it and make sure it's double spaced. Make sure this is 0. There we go. And then tab it. There you go. All right, great. So now you have your citation, you have your quote, you have your philosophy. All right. And then you this right here, conclusion, personal connection to either of the 3 stories or the philosophy, event in your life, personal beliefs. Here you can just put one little sentence if you want to for right now. Okay, I'm less worried about that as much as getting your research together. All right, so that is how you do this. You do not need to highlight any of this. Don't worry about that. Okay. So what I'm looking for when I grade this assignment, I'm looking for, and you don't even need this. I'm looking that you have your short stories, your symbol, your short story, your theme, your short story, and your philosophy. You have a thesis statement that's very detailed. You have each of the main points that you're going to make in your essay. You have a quote from your story. You have a quote about your interpretation, and then you have a citation for each of these. Okay. One second. And so then you have all that. Okay. And then like this is super easy. Once you have your thesis statement written, all you gotta do is copy it, and you can use it for the thesis assignment. This is kind of a 2-for-1. It's pretty simple. You just go to the essay 1 thesis proposal and you just paste it in there. So that's pretty easy right there. All right. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you gained something from this. If you're having difficulties finding your sources, let me know. Remember, you don't have to find a source that's specifically about your story. It can be on the topic of your story, and then you just apply it. Okay. All righty. Take it easy. Goodbye.